Hello everyone, how are we all doing today? My name is Trevon from freestudiotime.com, where I help struggling musicians turn their mixes into gold. Today I'm going to be showing you how to sidechain with Soothe 2. Now I know I've shown you all how to do this in the past, but there's people continuously asking me how to sidechain with Soothe 2, so I thought I'd make another video explaining how to do it. I'm going to go into extra depth so everybody understands exactly what they need to be doing. I'm also going to show you how to sidechain with a compressor as well. So when you hear me say sidechaining with Soothe 2, you may be wondering, why do we even need Soothe 2 and why do we need to sidechain to Soothe 2? So in order to understand this, we need to look at our mixes as a whole. You have your instrumental track or your beat, and then you have your vocals. The goal is to get the vocals and the beat or instrumental track to fit as close together as possible. Now there's only a few ways to achieve this. First is your compression. When you're compressing your vocals, you can use high compression if you feel like your vocals aren't fitting well enough inside the beat. The more you crunch the dynamics of your vocals, the tighter it'll sound and the better it'll fit inside the beat. But more times than not, heavy compression is not an option. If that's the case, what we would do is wait until we finish mixing our vocals. We're gonna come over here to our instrumental track and turn it down bit by bit, dB by dB, or a point of a dB by a point of a dB, until we can get a instrumental that sits nicely behind our vocals. And then again, whenever you try to adjust this fader as little as possible to try to get the beat to sit behind the vocals, it may get to a point where it sits behind your vocals, but you still hear frequencies clashing with certain parts of your vocals, which kind of just makes the overall product sound really unprofessional. This is the reason why we need to sidechain with Soothe 2 or a compressor. So if you don't know what Soothe 2 is, it's a dynamic resonance suppressor, meaning it's going to be detecting each specific sound wave throughout your vocals. It's going to find resonance within those sound waves and suppress them down depending on what type of adjustments you made in Soothe 2. Now we're going to be using Soothe 2 as a sidechain. To help you understand exactly what a sidechain is, sidechain, it just means we're using a signal from something to affect another part of our mix. The goal here of using this Soothe 2 is to suppress down the frequencies that are resonating with the frequencies in our actual vocals. This is going to minimize the clashing that we're hearing whenever we play through our song. In this case, we're going to create a whole entire separate copy of our vocals. We're going to have that set as our signal, and then we're going to send that signal out to the Soothe 2 that we placed on our beat, and that's going to be pretty much our whole entire sidechain. It's a lot more easier than it sounds, but anyways, let's just get straight into it. First thing I want to do is show you how everything sounds without the actual sidechain. I just want you to hear how everything kind of clashes together. It doesn't really sound like anything fits together nicely, and this is the reason why we need to use Soothe 2.
Yeah. The night's gotten colder, we're approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test but I call. I'm to the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as you waited. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief.
So the thing about this specific type of beat that makes it kind of hard to mesh vocals into is that there's a lot of like sustained frequencies because it's like so ambient, especially in this part right here where I'm really just rapping. It kind of sounds like those ambient frequencies are overpowering my vocals, which is just not okay. So let's go ahead and throw on a Soothe 2. In order to set up this sidechain, all you need to do is throw your Soothe 2 on the instrumental bus or just the beat track, just like this. After you throw it on the beat track, now we need to set up the actual signal. Setting up the signal is literally the hardest part, but after we set this up, everything is gravy. So in order to set up your signal, all you pretty much need to do is you need to come over here and make a copy of every single vocal that you have throughout your entire song. The reason why you want to make sure you highlight all of your vocals right here is so whenever we render out this copy and actually set up the sidechain, Soothe 2 will detect every single audio take that we recorded throughout our entire track, which means it's going to duck behind whatever we have on here. So this is why you want to make sure you have all of your audio takes highlighted, right? So now the next thing that you want to do after that is if you're on a MacBook like I am, I just press Command Option C. But if you're not on a MacBook like I am and you're on another type of computer, just check through the shortcuts inside of your digital audio workstation and you should be able to figure out how to actually render out copies of whatever you're trying to copy out. But anyways, for me, it's just Command Option C, just like this. And then once I press Command Option C, it'll render out a copy of my vocals. And right up here, it should come out something looking like this. So that was pretty much the hardest part. This is now our signal copy. What we want to do right here is you want to place this inside of a track that we're not using. So pretty much just like an empty insert or like an empty channel. In this case, that empty channel for me would be track 57, right? So if that's the case, all you have to do now is just come over here to track 57, rename it Signal or whatever track that you use that was empty for you. Rename that Signal and color it just so you can distinguish between all the other tracks that you may have inside of your mixer. Now, next thing that you want to do is actually come over here to the beat. Make sure you have that 57 selected or your signal track selected. And you want to make sure that you come over here to the beat, hit that, and then you want to hit side chain to this track only, right? So now we've just set up the actual side chain. Next thing that we need to do with Soothe 2 is come over here to processing, side chain input, and you want to make sure you hit signal. This is what we've just created, right? And last thing to do is make sure that we hit the sidechain button so Soothe 2 knows that we're trying to use a signal in order to affect whatever we have the Soothe 2 on, right? So as you see, what we just did is pretty much took a copy of our vocals. We set that up as the signal. We sent that out to our beat track or the instrumental track. We selected the settings inside of Soothe 2 so Soothe 2 understands that we're trying to use a signal track in order to use it as a sidechain. Now what's going to happen is whenever I play this song and Soothe 2 starts to detect my vocals, it's going to immediately duck or like suppress the resonating frequencies from my actual instrumental behind my vocals. So we can really prevent that clashing and just help our vocals and instrumental fit together a whole lot better. So that's why this is really such a useful method. Now, this is pretty much the easy part. All you pretty much just have to do now is set it up to your desired settings. So this band right here is just how you adjust the sensitivity of your actual Soothe 2. I have it up here because I just want this pretty sensitive. Also, another thing I like to do over here is make sure I'm in hard mode. And then for the depth, you want to make sure that the depth is somewhere in the negatives. Starting off at like -3 or -5 or something like that is going to be really good depending on what type of beat you're working on. And then as you play through the song and as you just like listen, just adjust it to your liking. Make sure you leave the mix at 100%, and the sharpness I just have it at 4.3 and 3.8. It's not going to be the same for you. It just depends on what type of dynamic information that your Soothe 2 has to process. Now, last things last, I do want to express a bit of caution right here for this depth knob, because the more you turn this up, the more processing Soothe 2 will be doing on your beat. What we're trying to avoid here is using too much processing on our beat and just kind of destroying the overall sound of our song. The reason why we use Soothe 2 for vocal ducking is because it's one of the most transparent methods for not taking away any type of dynamic information from our beat, which is what pretty much makes up the whole entire feel, or it sets a basis for the feeling of the song we're listening to, right? Compression does not do a really good job at that. That's why we kind of do that when we don't have Soothe 2 available. But in this case, when we do have Soothe 2 available, we want to make sure we're not going too overboard with this processing. So we control the processing from the depth, so we want to make sure that the depth always starts in the negatives. Once you start to get over to like 1 and you start to get into the positives, that's when you might be experiencing a little bit too much processing, right? So you want to make sure that you're not going too overboard. But yeah, everything else is just totally your opinion. Use your best judgment for your specific song. What I would suggest you do is set up your Soothe 2 to the point where each notch that you see right here kind of like fits with each word that you're saying throughout the song. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an example of what I'm talking about right here. Let me turn on this Soothe 2. You're going to hear how well everything blends together once I turn this on and play everything. But I want you to also pay attention to like the notches down here and how each time I say a specific word, Soothe 2 just kind of like presents this like super like narrow notch. The reason why I want you to make these notches narrow is because the wider the notches are, the more it's going to be taking away from the beat, right? But anyways, let me play everything for you and let you hear how everything sounds.
Yeah. The nights gotten colder, we're approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bolder, now I'm test but I call. I'm to the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as you waited. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief, and all these bad habits I wish I could shove them beneath.
I have no sense of self-working, I rely as I scream out loud and I wonder why. Guess that's just moments living on the rough side. Count some digits, get a lot higher.
Yeah, so when adjusting the notches on here, it's kind of similar to like how it is on an EQ. So for instance, let me just open up a EQ really quick. So like, yeah, the narrower these bands right here on your EQ whenever you cut, the more unnatural it's gonna cause your actual vocals or whatever you're throwing that EQ on to sound. And the wider you make your either booster cuts, the more natural it'll sound. So that same rule kind of applies when working with Soothe 2 for the sharpness right here. So just keep that in mind. So we just set up the sidechain for Soothe 2. Let me show you how I would set up a compressor for sidechaining when using vocal ducking if I didn't have access to Soothe 2. So the reason why you want to use a compressor if you don't have Soothe 2 is because what a compressor can actually do is compress down the dynamics of any frequencies that may clash. Now the cool thing about using a compressor is that you can use it kind of the same way as you can with Soothe 2. What a compressor is going to be doing is actually compressing. What the compressor right here is going to be doing is compressing any dynamics from the beat that might clash with the dynamics from my vocals or the frequencies from my vocals. Only thing about using a compressor is that if you think about what a compressor is doing is literally just flattening out the dynamics of whatever you put it on. So pretty much the more compression you throw on your track, the less dynamic information can seep through, or we could just say the less expression can seep through the beat, which is what actually makes a song, or a good song at least. So this is why it's really imperative to make sure we're only using minuscule adjustments with this compressor, because if you go too overboard with it, you're just gonna destroy the actual instrumental and you're just gonna cause it to sound really bad. Your vocals may sound pretty good, but your beat is just gonna sound really bad because you're just throwing this compressor on there and you may be over compressing your actual beat when vocal ducking. So you want to make sure that you set this up correctly. Now when working with Fruity Limiter, I like to use Fruity Limiter for this. I think it's like pretty much one of the only ways to sidechain with compression inside Fruity. I may be wrong, I haven't really checked too much because I don't really need to, you know. But anyways, you kind of want to do the same thing that you did with the Soothe 2 for the sidechain right here. Well, first off, you want to make sure you go to compression. Then after you go to compression, you want to make sure you go to sidechain. You want to hit the signal, and then after you hit the signal, all you need to do is just you always want to make sure that the ratio is nothing more than like a 2-to-1 ratio. You will deeply regret it if you don't do a 2-to-1 ratio, right? I like to set up my attack time for about like somewhere around like a 15 or something. Just because like throwing a compressor on your beat, you can really mess things up very easily. So you want to be very cautious about how you make these little adjustments like attack. You definitely do not want a fast attack, because if you think about what attack is, it controls how fast processing begins on whatever you have your compressor or whatever you're using attack on. So in this case, attack controls how fast I want my compressor to begin its processing. The faster I set this attack, the more noticeable its effects are going to be whenever this compressor activates. So you want to make sure set something that's a bit slower. So let's go about 17.6 milliseconds. Now all we need to do is pretty much just like listen to it and compress accordingly, right?
Yeah. The nights gotten colder, we're approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test but I call. I'm to the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as you waited. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief, and all these bad habits I wish I could shove them beneath.
I've no sense of self-forgiveness.
Yeah. The nights gotten colder, we're approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test but I call. I'm to the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as you waited. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief.
But alright everyone, that is specifically how you sidechain to duck the instrument or beat behind your vocals, creating a lot more of a clear, transparent mix. Now let me ask you a question. Are you an artist or engineer struggling to get nice vocal mixes that you can actually feel proud about and release? You may be looking across YouTube to get all these questions answered about how to mix your vocals and get actually radio ready sounding songs, only to be left confused and disappointed. I used to be in this exact same spot a few years ago, so trust me, I understand how you feel. I want to help you solve your problem, so what I want you to do is hit the link down below, schedule a strategy session so we can figure out how to get you making high quality mixes in under 30 days, because that's what I can guarantee. Anybody who works with me, I guarantee that they'll be at least up to my level in 30 days. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, hit the link down below. Again, schedule your strategy session now. But all right, everyone, hope you got a lot of value out of this video. If you did, make sure to hit like, make sure to hit subscribe. I'll catch you all in the next one.